The Galactic Empire had never known an enemy it could not crush. It had ruled for over 10,000 cycles, stretching its dominion across countless star systems, absorbing or annihilating all who opposed its will. Its fleets darkened the skies of conquered worlds. Its armies marched upon the ashes of civilizations that once believed themselves unbreakable. No species had ever mounted a serious challenge. No force had ever caused it to tremble. From the command bridge of the Eternal Dominion, Grand Imperator Zalzir gazed at the holographic display before him, his violet eyes narrowing. A foreign fleet had been detected at the edge of Imperial space, beyond the barren reaches of the Karath expanse. Strange vessels, small but numerous, moved with coordinated precision. Their design bore no resemblance to any known civilization. The data flickering before him was incomplete, but one fact was undeniable. This fleet did not belong to any subjugated race under Imperial rule. It was something new. High Marshal Verul, Zalzir said, his voice cold and deliberate, explained this anomaly. The High Marshal, a towering figure clad in ceremonial battleplate, studied the projections with barely veiled disdain. His kind, the Orzuri, were the warriors of the Empire, bred for conquest, towering over lesser species in both stature and brutality. He had led dozens of planetary subjugations and had never once considered the possibility of failure. Unknown origin. Minimal emissions detected. Energy signatures do not match any recorded species, Verul said, his deep voice echoing through the chamber. Yet they advance with intent, showing no hesitation. They do not transmit identification codes or heed our standard hails. A smirk touched Zalzir's lips, primitive and arrogant. It will be a swift extermination. A ripple of amusement passed through the gathered officers. They had seen this countless times before, lesser species reaching beyond their station, thinking themselves warriors, only to be shattered against the might of the Empire. This would be no different. The Imperator turned to his communications officer. Send a single war barge. Show them the folly of their intrusion. The order was met with murmurs of approval. A single war barge, a vessel capable of raising continents, was more than enough. The newcomers would be annihilated before they even understood what had destroyed them. The fleet moved with terrifying efficiency. The war barge, Sovereign Wrath, surged toward the intruders, its hull bristling with weapons that had broken armadas. It did not seek diplomacy, nor did it expect resistance. Its mission was clear: destroy the unknown vessels and leave no survivors. Zalzir watched from his command station, satisfied that the matter would be resolved within the hour. He barely spared it another thought, his attention shifting to more pressing concerns. The Empire was vast, and managing its conquests required a mind free of distractions. Then the first reports came in. Silence fell over the command chamber as the transmissions played. There was no expected display of effortless destruction, no triumphant declaration of victory. What they heard instead was chaos. Shields failing, their weapons impossible, they, ***. Hull breach. We are, ***. Not energy-based. Our defenses, no way to stop. Static. The transmission cut out, and with it, the illusion of invulnerability. A single moment of stillness. Then, disbelief. The war barge was gone. Not damaged. Not crippled. Gone. Zalzir's expression remained unreadable, but the tension in the chamber thickened. A full battle barge of the Empire, one of its most formidable war machines, had been erased within minutes. This was no primitive species throwing itself blindly at a superior foe. This was something else. Dispatch a reconnaissance probe, Zalzir said, his voice devoid of emotion. A small craft was sent, a stealth drone designed to observe unseen. The chamber remained silent as it fed back its findings, revealing the battlefield that should not have existed. There was no wreckage of the war barge, only a cloud of fine debris, molecularly shattered beyond recognition. And amidst the destruction, the enemy fleet remained untouched. The tension in the room became suffocating. Verul, ever the warrior, bared his teeth. This changes nothing. A single vessel is a loss, but not a defeat. I will lead the fleet myself. Zalzir nodded. It was the logical response. A greater show of force was required, one that would ensure the absolute annihilation of this insolent species. A full strike force would be dispatched. This time, there would be no mistakes. Within the hour, 100 Imperial warships moved toward the enemy fleet. Their approach was methodical, calculated, the overwhelming force of the Empire bearing down upon its newfound adversary. Victory was inevitable. And yet, deep within his mind, Zalzir felt something he had never encountered before. A sliver of unease. The silence in the Imperial war chamber was unnatural, a void filled with unspoken dread. Grand Imperator Zalzir sat motionless upon his throne, his taloned fingers pressing into the polished obsidian of his armrest. Around him, the finest military minds of the Empire stood, waiting, watching, their expressions carefully schooled into masks of detachment. The reports had been analyzed, reanalyzed, scrutinized for errors. There were none. The data was absolute. A fleet of 100 warships, led by the ruthless High Marshal Verul himself, had ceased to exist. Not defeated, not scattered, erased. For the first time in Imperial history, an enemy had destroyed an entire battle group without suffering a single known casualty. It was unthinkable. They are not gods, Zalzir murmured, more to himself than anyone else. They bleed. He needed to believe it. The alternative was something he refused to consider. A race that could challenge the Empire was an impossibility. Yet, the impossibility had already happened. The intelligence gathered from scattered sensor data painted a grim picture. The enemy ships, human ships, moved with an efficiency that defied logic, their formations shifting mid-battle as though predicting the Empire's every maneuver. Their weapons ignored standard energy shielding, bypassing the Imperial fleet's most advanced defenses as if they were mere decorations. The wreckage of the Sovereign Wrath and the countless other fallen warships had been found in molecular ruin, as if something had unmade them at a fundamental level. And still, no transmissions had been received from this enemy. No demands, no ultimatums, no mercy. A new war had begun. Zalzir stood, his imposing figure framed by the dim, golden glow of the chamber's war strategic display. He turned to Supreme Admiral Karath, a veteran of 1,000 campaigns. Deploy the Imperial Dread Fleet. Every ship available. I want them positioned along the core systems. We will not allow them to strike at the heart of our empire. Karath hesitated, an action so foreign to him that it sent a ripple of unease through the room. His species, the Threxian, were bred for loyalty and cold, tactical precision, yet even he struggled with what he was about to say. Imperator, they're already here. Zalzir's blood ran cold. A single movement of Karath's hand sent a new projection flaring to life. Countless red markers flickered across the holographic representation of the Empire's core systems. In less than a standard cycle, enemy vessels had bypassed the outer defenses. They had not engaged in full-scale assaults. They had not fought honorably. Instead, they had cut out the Empire's veins with the precision of a master assassin. Supply lines had been obliterated. Shipyards reduced to lifeless husks. Communication relays shattered. Entire sectors plunged into silence. This was not a war of conquest. This was extermination. A ripple of static crackled through the chamber's comm line, a voice breaking through the Imperial network with unnatural clarity. It was the first time any of them had heard the enemy speak. "We are humanity," the voice said, smooth, devoid of anger, yet filled with something far worse, certainty. "Your time is over." Then the attack began. Zalzir had seen war. He had orchestrated the slaughter of entire civilizations, had watched planetary bombardments turn once thriving worlds into glass. But he had never seen an enemy fight like this. The Empire's fleets were vast, their dreadnoughts the pinnacle of technological supremacy. Yet against the humans, they were nothing more than monuments to arrogance. Imperial warships moved in grand, disciplined formations, as they had done for millennia. The humans moved like shadows, shifting patterns mid-battle, vanishing and reappearing in unexpected locations. They did not rely on brute force, though their weapons were devastating beyond comprehension. Instead, they fought with an understanding of warfare so intricate, so absolute, that every Imperial countermeasure was crushed before it was even attempted. Dreadnoughts, once thought indestructible, fell without warning. The Empire's greatest fortresses, built to withstand planetary sieges, were wiped from existence in moments. The humans did not fight for territory, nor did they slow for negotiations. Every encounter ended in absolute annihilation. Yet it was not the destruction alone that unsettled Zalzir. It was the silence. The Empire's enemies always screamed, whether in defiance, in agony, in desperation. The humans did not. They offered no battle cries, no cries of victory, no warnings. They simply erased everything in their path. In desperation, the Empire deployed its last contingency. The Black Suns, a fleet of warships outfitted with the most forbidden weapons in Imperial history. Planetary scouring devices, antimatter annihilators, weapons deemed too cruel even by the Empire's brutal standards. Zalzir had never intended to use them. He had always believed there would be something left worth ruling. He had been wrong. The Black Suns launched. Entire human fleets were caught in their wake, engulfed in energy fields meant to unmake reality itself. And for a fleeting moment, the tide seemed to turn. Humanity had finally suffered losses. But then the retaliation came. Zalzir would never forget the sight. The humans had held back. He had believed they had already unleashed their full fury. He had been mistaken. The counterattack came with a force that defied all understanding. Human warships no longer fought from a distance. They closed the gap, bypassing the Empire's greatest defenses as though they did not exist. They landed on one-secure planets, and what followed was not conquest but erasure. Cities vanished in storms of fire. Imperial strongholds crumbled under kinetic bombardments so precise that even underground bunkers became death traps. The humans did not take prisoners. For the first time, the Empire knew fear. Zalzir stood amidst the chaos of his failing dominion, his golden warplate marred with the smoke of his crumbling world. His warriors still fought, but they fought without hope. There was no victory to be had here. Yet he did not flee. He was a ruler of the Empire. If this was the end, then he would face it. A final message echoed across the war-torn stars, spoken in the same calm, detached tone as before. "This is not vengeance," the voice said. "This is justice." The transmission ended, and with it, the Empire's final illusions of survival. The Imperial capital burned. What was once the heart of a civilization that had ruled for millennia was now a dying ember flickering against the backdrop of the void. Towers that had once stretched into the sky crumbled under the relentless bombardment. Great spires of black stone, monuments to the Empire's eternal reign, lay shattered. The streets below, where nobles had once walked in arrogance, were now choked with fire and ash. The air itself trembled under the weight of destruction. Grand Imperator Zalzir stood upon the balcony of the Imperial citadel, gazing at the wreckage of his world. The sky, once illuminated by the golden glow of the twin moons, was now lit only by the distant infernos consuming the capital. His ornate warplate, once pristine, was streaked with soot and the blood of his own people. Below, the last remnants of his once mighty armies gathered, their formations broken, their weapons useless against an enemy that had rewritten the rules of war. The human fleet hung above the dying world like specters of judgment. The sheer scale of their forces defied reason. Colossal warships, their forms sleek and precise, eclipsed the stars. Even now, as the Empire's defenses collapsed, they did not rush to finish their work. They moved methodically, with the patience of something inevitable. A presence approached from behind. Supreme Admiral Karath, his once proud battle regalia now tattered, his expression hollow. He did not bow, did not kneel. Formalities had lost their meaning. "My Imperator," Karath said, his voice barely above a whisper. "The orbital defenses are gone. The fleet is lost. There is nothing left." Zalzir did not turn. He already knew the answer to the question he was about to ask, but he asked it anyway. Have the humans made contact? Karatha's mandibles twitched. No, my lord. No demands. No terms. Zalzir closed his eyes. Even now, in the face of extinction, the humans remained silent. They had never sought conquest, never asked for surrender. They had come for one purpose alone: eradication. Below, what remained of the Empire's soldiers began to break. Discipline crumbled. Some cast aside their weapons and fled into the burning ruins. Others turned on each other, desperate to place blame, to find an outlet for their fear. And still the humans did not descend. They waited, watching, as if they had already won. Zalzir turned at last to Karath, studying the warrior who had served him for centuries. The Supreme Admiral had always spoken of death as an honor, of war as a glory. But now, standing on the edge of oblivion, he was silent. The Imperator drew his ceremonial blade, its golden edge catching the light of the burning city. Gather the last of the High Command. We go to the throne chamber. Karath hesitated. And then, we face the end as rulers, Zalzir said. The throne chamber, once a place of power, was now a tomb. The High Lords of the Empire had gathered, those who had not already fled or fallen in the chaos. Once they had commanded entire star systems with a word. Now they stood in silence, waiting for the inevitable. Zalzir took his place upon the throne, his golden armor gleaming in the flickering firelight. He did not speak. There was nothing left to say. Then the end came. The sky split apart as the humans unleashed their final blow. Not a single grand strike, but a methodical destruction, piece by piece, as though dismantling something unworthy of existence. The Imperial Citadel, once the most fortified structure in the known galaxy, cracked like brittle stone. Walls that had withstood planetary sieges crumbled in an instant. The great banners of the Empire, symbols of eternal dominion, burned to cinders. Zalzir remained seated as the chamber shook around him. Dust and debris rained from above. The High Lords, once proud, now cowered. Some ran, as if there was anywhere left to go. Others fell to their knees, muttering prayers to gods who had long since abandoned them. A final transmission echoed through the ruins, spoken in that same calm, impassive voice. It is done, and then silence. The humans did not land, did not claim the world as their own. They simply left, vanishing into the void as swiftly as they had arrived. No monuments would be built upon the ashes of the Empire. No records would be kept of its fall. The Imperator's final thought, as the ruins collapsed around him, was not of conquest or revenge. It was a realization. The Empire had never been invincible. It had merely never faced an enemy that understood the truth of war. Not victory, not survival, only the certainty of extinction.